Hi class, my name is Sarah and I'm going to be doing my presentation on reading as an other. So I actually have two books I want to share with you, but I think that each of them display a different important characteristic about how we can teach children to read as others. The first one is a book I got from the library a long time ago when my kids were small. I just pulled it off the shelf and I didn't like it, so I don't believe I read it to them. But I went back to it and I think I have a different perspective on it. So anyways, it's called Voices in the Park, and it's the story of a child, but it's told 4 different times in this one book. And basically this little boy goes to the park with his mother and their dog, and he meets another little girl there, and she's a little sad, and she's there with her dad. And so anyways, the story is told 4 times, so you can see there's the dad. He looks a little bit sad. First from the little boy's perspective, then from the mother's, then from the little girl's perspective, and then from her father's. And you can see that it's one story, but each person and each character in it had something different going on in their lives. And so the way that they reacted to each other and what they did at the park and how they behaved is really interesting. And so I like, now that my children are a little bit older, I think that they can appreciate it more instead of be confused by it. But as I read the book again, I noticed a lot of interesting artwork. So for example, on this page, when the little boy and the little girl meet, sorry if you can see that, you can see that this side where the boy is, it's sad and dark and cloudy, and then there's this lamppost in between them that like separates the page, and over here the storm hasn't quite got over there, so this little girl is really happy to be at the park. And I don't want to give it away, but I think this is a really good place to start. In my daughter's kindergarten class, they've been talking a lot about the different pieces of a story, so who the author is and who the illustrator is. And one thing I've been trying to teach her about is who the narrator is, and how sometimes the narrator is somebody in the book and sometimes it's not. And I asked her if we can trust the narrator, like for example, if the narrator is one of the people in the book, how do we know if they're telling all the pieces of the story? And how well do we relate to them? Can we trust them? Are they forgetting things? Are they lying or maybe stretching the truth? And she's found that really interesting. So I think that that's one way that you can share reading as an other to children. Like I said, when they get a little bit older and they start to understand about perspectives, that everybody can see the world in a different way. The other book I wanted to share is one that I read to my kids at preschool, and we really just fell in love with these books. This one's called Elizabetty's Doll, but there's 2 others. One of them is Elizabetty Big Sister, and I can't remember the name of the other one, but it's about this little girl named Elizabetty. Sorry, there's a glare from this shiny on the book. And she is from Africa, and it just talks about her family's daily life and what they do. And so in this particular story, her mother has just had another baby. So Elizabetty was the youngest, and she has an older sister, but now she has this little baby brother. And instead of a doll for her to play with, she ends up adopting a rock. And the rock, she does everything just like her mother does. So I love this book because children love to learn about babies. They love pretending to be like parents and doing those jobs. And so this is a book that my children really related to because they like mimicking me myself. They like cooking the way I do. They like sweeping the way I do. And so that's what makes this book fun. And this little girl, you meet some of her friends. What's funny about it, it's also kind of humorous, is at the end, she can't find her baby and she's really sad. But her baby ended up being in the family's cooking fire for their dinner that night. Her sister had accidentally taken it, not knowing that that was her baby. And so through this book, it's really easily, sorry guys about that glare. Anyways, it's really easily relatable to children because it's told through a child's perspective, and it's very sweet. The pictures are adorable, but also it opens up their world to another way of living. It shows a very simple way of living in a hut, and how the children are responsible for some of their own chores, what toys they play with, how they behave. And so those things are all similar, but of course in a very different culture. And so I highly recommend this book, and I hope you have a great week. Thanks, guys.